Creating dimension styles is a very similar process to creating text styles. We're going to come to the annotation drop down on the home tab, and here we have a button that has a dimension symbol with a paintbrush on it. This will open up the dimension style manager. We're going to create a new dimension style, and we're going to create one that's going to be annotative, and it's going to be used for all dimensions. We can actually create different dimension styles for different types of dimensions, but this is going to be a global all dimension style, and it doesn't matter what we start with because we're going to change everything anyway, but we can actually start with one that we've already created. We're going to call this dims Arial 2, and it's going to be annotative, so we'll call it anno. Click continue, and we get a dialog box with quite a few tabs along the top. We're going to start with lines, and we're going to change some of these values, and I'll explain what these do as we go through. Now, as a rule of thumb, if you don't know what values to use, try and stick to the same value as the height of the text that you're creating. It's a very good starting point, and then you can modify it later on. So I'm creating a dimension style that's going to use Arial 2 mm high, so we're going to change most of these to being a value of 2. So baseline spacing, this gives us more space around the text. We'll get a little preview in this top right hand corner window to see what we're changing and what it will look like. The next one we're going to change is extend beyond dim lines, and what this does is it changes the length of the little lines that go past the arrows in here. So this is 1.25 mm, we're going to up that to 2, and offset from origin you can see is set to 0.625, and we're also going to change this to being a value of 2 as well. And what this does is it sets the extension line away from the drawing, so this little gap in here, because we don't like these dimension lines touching our object because it becomes all messy. It's nice to have a little gap in there, a little spacer. And you can see this is actually set as 0.625 mm at the moment. And AutoCAD by default has very low values, very small spacing, because this is used by lots of different industries, and architects are quite a big customer of AutoCAD, and they draw very large plans of housing estates and very large buildings. But comparatively we draw quite small drawings, so we need to make these values slightly bigger. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is symbols and arrows, and you can see here that we can change the type of arrow or symbol that we have on the ends of our dimensions. So here we're going to change this to oblique. It's very common to use either an arrow or an oblique in the theatre style drawings. It's up to you really, personal preference, but I quite like the oblique. The arrow size then, 2.5 mm, that's pretty good. I'm just going to round that down to 2 just to make it nice and clear. Break size, I'm going to change that to 4, and I'll explain that a little later. And then we're going to go to text, and we're going to change this text style then from standard to Arial 2 annotative. Now I don't actually have one created, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the little button with the 3 dots, and that will allow me to create one now. So this will be called Arial 2 Anno. Click OK, set the size to annotative 2, click apply, click close, and then make sure that this is set in the drop down box. Coming down to offset from dimension line, we're going to just change this to 2 as well, and then we're going to go to fit. Now I'm not going to change anything in here, but just so you know, this is where we can change the override settings for when the text won't actually fit inside of the dimension. You can choose whether it sits beside the dimension line, over it with a leader, or over the dimensional line without a leader, that sort of thing. Okay, we're going to go to primary units now, and we're going to just change this to be in a position of 0, because I'm only concerned at this stage with rounded full millimetres. We're going to change the decimal separator to period. Now we're probably not going to see that because we've just changed the precision to 0, but it's just always good practice, I think, just in case you change it later. And then we can look at alternative units if you want to, but I'm going to leave that now. Click OK, click set current, click close, and now you can see that when I create a dimension, it uses that dimension style.